No. Okay, thank you. Hello to all. Thank you for attending. I am Susan Stetzer, District Manager for Community Board 3, and the purpose of this meeting is to serve our local businesses. Programs have some changes every year, and we wanted to provide a one-stop information and opportunity to ask questions and also to understand how the city and state intersect. And we also always appreciate the opportunity to collaborate with our businesses. The people who are here are community board businesses, bids, lawyers, and representatives who represent the businesses, local elected official offices who get many questions, and local precincts who are working with the businesses. I greatly appreciate DOT and SLA for providing this information, and to the Hospitality Alliance for their partnership. And I'll now turn this over to Andrew Ritchie from the Hospitality Alliance. Thank you all.
Thank you, Susan. Hello, everyone. Andrew Ritchie. I am the Executive Director of the New York City Hospitality Alliance. We are the association representing thousands of restaurants and bars across the 5 boroughs, and we're always happy to partner on these types of forums. I also said I'd also make it clear that today's forum is to really learn about outdoor dining, how to apply and how to comply. I do know that some people have questions about maybe broader reforms to the program, and this isn't necessarily the place where we're going to have those discussions, but it is a place where you'll get a lot of great information about the current state of the program, what you need to know, and also have an opportunity to have some of your questions answered. And then we can, of course, follow up separately on other related matters. So with that, thanks again to SLA and DOT and CB3 and everyone for joining us. I will turn it over to the DOT team to start the presentation.
Great. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kate Scherer. I'm with the Manhattan Borough Commissioner's Office at DOT. I'm also joined by my colleague, David Breen, from the Manhattan Borough Commissioner's Office. And we have Penny Ringle and Lauren Antonelli on from our Dining Out program. So I'll let them get right to it.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren Antonelli. I am the Executive Director for the Outdoor Dining Team. I'm joined by my colleague, Penny, who's going to walk us through a presentation. So I will turn it over to Penny.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Penny Ringle. I'm the Director of Public Engagement for the Outdoor Dining Team. Let me bring the presentation up. Just a second. Am I able to share? Yes.
Yeah, you should be.
Okay. Sandra,
I just made you a co-host
yes,
and
got it,
said you can share. Okay.
You see the screen?
No?
Not yet.
Hold on.
There we
Now?
go.
Excellent. So Dining Out NYC is the city's official outdoor dining program. So let's do a program overview. I'll be a little bit quick on these, and then there's some slides I'll be, a little more detailed. So to be eligible to apply to the program, you have to be on the ground floor to a public street, have a food service establishment permit issued by the New York City Department of Health. Who must apply? Somebody that wants to have an outdoor dining setup on a city sidewalk or a roadway. If you're setting something up in your private property, you do not have to apply, but hopefully you are following the zoning laws and the DOB rules, and if you're allowed to do it in your backyard or in alleyways or whatever. But it's not part of the Dining Out program since it's in private property. The outdoor dining season, just a reminder to everybody, is sidewalk is year-round. As of right now, roadway is from April 1 through November 29, and roadway setups are allowed to begin setting up March 25, and I'll go in who's allowed and who's not allowed later on in the program. So Roadway visibility. Basically, you cannot block clearances. You have to, stay away from a pump, hydrant, depending what the curb regulations are. You have to be in a valid parking spot, can be in a bus lane, can be in a bus stop, can be in a bike lane, directly in front of your business. It has to be in the frontage of your business. You cannot be set up into a neighboring property. Sidewalk, same thing. There's clearances, and I'll go into details shortly. You cannot set up in the curb, and we're seeing this quite a lot. It's illegal. It has to be on the side, as you see over here, of your business. And again, you have to have the clear path requirements, and it has to match the approved site plan you submitted. And again, it could only be in front of your business. It cannot be in the neighboring's business, even if the neighboring property allows you. So we have a setup guides that allows on the website that shows you exactly what clearances are required and what's needed for the program. Let me see if I can bring it up over here on the website so you can see it. Why is it not coming up? Try this again. Sorry. So if you go to our homepage, you click on requirements. You have the setup guides for roadway cafes and sidewalk cafes. Just going to go a little bit into clearances. Basically, scrolling down this page, I'm not going to discuss each clearance over here, but basically you have all the clearances required, tells you how far away you have to be from certain items, crosswalks, depending how the traffic is, which way the approaching of the intersection or the non-approaching of the intersection. So if you scroll down this page, you have everything. Now, a roadway setup. Basic roadway setup is water-filled barriers and tables and chairs. If you want to do some extras, you want to have coverings, we have the website over here. Please read it before you set up. You cannot set up a full structure, permanent type of structures that was done in the past. You can have flooring. I'll touch on the flooring. You can have flooring on the roadway, but it needs to be removable. So when an inspector comes, he has to be able to lift it and make sure there's no accumulation of dirt. It needs to be cleaned always, so you have to be careful on that. The health department will also inspect. When they do their inspections, they will check for cleanliness. Let's go back to the sidewalk. Again, I'm going to touch on clearances. There's more clearances on the sidewalk, basically from MTA structures. Is it? Oh, sign, like these type of stuff out that are on, by the building, Siamese curb cuts, city bike stations. There's all types of clearances that need to happen. So please, again, read this through if you're applying now, or if you're setting up, make sure you're following through all these clearances and make sure it follows your existing site plan. Road for sidewalk setup, basically tables and chairs, no flooring, and a regular perimeter around the setup. Perimeter needs to be maximum height is 2 feet and 6 inches. It could be stanchions, it could be like these type of thin gates, whatever. But again, it cannot be fully structured like wood with panels and the whole thing. No structures allowed on the sidewalk, no enclosures allowed on the sidewalk. Again, extras, if you want to have an awning, there's the regular awning. Make sure you have DOB permits for it, or if it's in a city, if you're in an area that's historic, make sure it's allowed to be installed. You can have the regular awnings, coverings of the umbrellas. So you have everything listed over here and discusses everything. Lighting, heating and cooling, what is allowed and what is not allowed. Let's go back to the presentation. So who's allowed to operate and who's not allowed to operate? To look up a license, if somebody has a license, anybody that's licensed, sidewalk or roadway, is allowed to operate. Again, you go to our website, you click on the portal, and you can look it up over here. You put in the borough, then it comes up the community board. Or if you don't put in the borough, you could just put in the address of the location, or you can look it up by council district or by restaurant name. If you're an applicant and you want to go into your application, this is the same website page, but on the right-hand corner on the top says login. You click login and you're able to see log into your account and see what's going on with your existing application. If it's licensed or where the status is. Who else is allowed to operate? So roadway, only licensed locations are allowed to operate. Sidewalk, licensed. Those that are still have conditional approval, and some of the applications that are still from the August 3rd deadline are allowed to operate. And again, I'm going to bring up the website. Give me a second. So I can show you where you can find it. So if you want to look up for licensed, click over here. It's going to bring you to that page that you just saw. If you want to know who's still sidewalk conditional approval, there's a list over here, PDF list. And if you want to know who is still allowed to operate under the August 3rd deadline of 2024, there's a list over here. Again, it's sidewalk only. Roadway, I just want to repeat this, roadway only licensed locations are allowed to operate. And just want to show this if there's anybody. So again, if you look over here, you put in Manhattan, comes up the community board, you click on CB3, you do search, and it comes up the locations that are licensed. And if you're an applicant and you want to check to see what's the status, click on login, log into your account, comes up a new page, and you log into your account. For those that want to apply, again, it's all on the website. You need to have all these documents when submitting the application. If you don't have it ready, you'll start filling it out and then click save. It's going to save your application for 60 days so you can finish it off and submit it. All these documents is on the website. I'll just show you where it is. If you go up over here before you apply, click on forms, and it gives you these documents. I just want to discuss the review process because we do get a lot of questions on the review process. So once you submit an application, excuse me, DOT would do a review of the application. Once the plan reviewer confirms that the application is complete and accurate, we will send it to the community board for a sidewalk application. The community board has up to 40 days to submit to DOT their recommendations. DOT will then determine if it requires a public hearing or not, and I'll explain that in another slide. Afterwards, if it doesn't require a public hearing, after the community board does their review and sends us back their recommendations, it will go to the city council. City council has up to 45 days for their review. Then once we get it back from the council, everything is approved. We start the licensing, the registration and licensing process. So basically that's where we're going to ask you for your insurance documents. We'll send you the revocable consent to sign. We'll send you invoices to pay. Once that's all done, we send it over to the Mayor's Office of Contract Services. They have to sign the application. Then after they send it back to us, it goes to the controller for registration through the financial management system that the city uses. And then it goes, after that's complete, it goes to the controller to sign it off. Once the controller signs it, then we issue you your license. Roadway is a little different. The same thing over here, you submit your application, we're going to bring it into DOT complete and accurate. Then we send it to the community board and the city council for their comments. They have up to 30 days to send us their comments, and DOT will hold a public hearing. After we get it back from the community board with their comments, DOT is going to hold a public hearing. No matter if even if the community board approved it, we still have to hold a public hearing. And then again, after the public hearing, everything is good. It's approved, we're moving it forward. Then we go through again the registration and the licensing process. So public hearings. So sidewalks and roadways. So roadway, as I explained before, I'm going to go to the bottom of the screen first. Again, community board sends us back their recommendations. Then we hold a public hearing. If it's a sidewalk, after the community board sends us back their recommendation, if the community board recommended to deny the application, or the community board recommended to, an example, let's say the applicant wants to have a 20 by 40 setup, and the frontage, everything is good, but for some reason the community board said no, it's too big, it's gonna, whatever the reasoning are, they would like it to narrow it down for 20 by 20, not a 20 by 40, and the applicant doesn't agree with that, then DOT is required to hold a public hearing. If the applicant agrees to the changes of the site plan that the community board is requesting, we'll have to draw up a new site plan that follows the changes that the community board requested, and the applicant approves, and then they do not have to hold a public hearing. So after the public hearing, there will be a city council review, as we discussed earlier. So this is basically the public hearing part. Now, public hearing, just some facts over here. DOT handles everything. Public hearings require postings in the city record. That doesn't cost any money. And also into newspapers. That costs money. Usually the newspaper will send the email to the applicant with an invoice. The applicant has to pay it. Then we set the date for the public hearing. And it has to be advertised 20 days before the public hearing date. Public hearing participation, it's open to the public. It's virtually on Zoom. So the public could attend. The applicant could attend, community board, whoever wants to attend. We will do notification to the community board and elected officials about the public hearing. And members, whoever wants to give comments, have up to 3 minutes to give comments related to each presentation that we do for in the public hearing. Enforcement. Basically, we have a team of enforcement that goes out, inspectors that check if everybody's following the rules and regulations of the program. If you're licensed, let's talk about licensed locations or the conditional approval locations. If you somehow the inspector finds you in violation, we will issue you a notice. Let's talk license, because that's where this notice goes out. So if you're licensed and the inspector comes and finds you that for some reason you're not following the rules and regulations, we will issue you a CAR, correction action request, that gives you 30 days to correct the violation. It's not money, it's just a notice. After the 30 days, an inspector will come back to make sure you fixed whatever you were supposed to. So let's say the roadway flooring wasn't removable, so he cites it, gives you get an email, you get it in by hand, the whole CAR, and 30 days later, 35 days later, the inspector will come and check to make sure you fixed it, that the flooring is removable. Now, if the inspector comes back after issuing a CAR and the flooring is not removable, you're going to get a summons. Okay, same thing with sidewalks. Any violations, you'll first get a CAR, then if you're not fixing it, if you fix it and the inspector comes back and determines everything is good, they close out the CAR and everything is good. But if not, then you'll get a summons. To file a complaint with about about a location that's not following the rules, blocking clear path or whatever it is, again, you can email us, you can contact the Borough Commissioner's Office, call 301. If you go to the community board would forward it to us. So the complaints, we can, we deal with the complaints. Cafe removal requirements. So this is mostly for roadway, but it could affect sidewalk sometimes too. There's two types of removals. You're licensed. It's middle June, June 15. DOT is going to request you to remove your roadway setup. The reason to request it, so let's use A. Now, the wording over here isn't your revocable consent. So it's a contract that you sign with the city that you're going to do this. So for an example, we're doing milling and paving. There's construction happening on your street for whatever reason, gas line, electric, or whatever it is. We have to give you a 14-day notice to remove. Give it to you 14 days, minimum 14 days. Sometimes we'll give you a little earlier, a little bit more, like 20 days earlier to give you time. So we tell you today's June 15, you have 14 days to remove your roadway because July 1st, we're starting milling on the road. Once the construction is done, you can set up again. Another time for removal, and this happens a lot in Manhattan, there's parades, there's street events, there's, the bike tours, the marathons and all those type of stuff. There we give minimum a 30-day notice that you have to remove your roadway for the day of the event, of the parade, the marathon, whatever it is. And then afterwards you can set up. Now, we give it to you 30 days in advance so you can prepare for it. But the removal is not like the night before of the parade. So let's say the parade is Sunday. No, you're not removing it Saturday night. There's going to be a date by when it needs to be removed. Now, if you do not remove for these things, DOT could come in and remove your setup and take everything that's in the setup, the tables, chairs, everything. We'll take it to our warehouse. Then you're going to have to come down to pick it up and pay us $2,500 for removal and storage and, and to pick it up. So it's always better that you remove it, store it in the right location, safely, and then set it back up when you're done, when the event is done or when the construction is done. That's it that I have. Happy to take questions, whichever way you want to do it, or if somebody else is going to speak afterwards.
Perhaps, if it's okay with everyone, perhaps we could have SLA give their presentation and then ask people, and they could start now if you want to start putting questions in the chat, and then we'll be able to address those after SLA. So SLA, you want to take over? And thank you very much, Penny.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ethan Crevasse. I'm joined by Maureen Hughes, our Deputy Commissioner of Licensing. We're here in the Albany Zone Office. We're going to share with you just some information about what the State Liquor Authority looks for when we are reviewing your applications for the addition of municipal space, whether it be a roadway cafe or a sidewalk cafe.
If I could just interrupt, your sound isn't good to me. Are other people having problems with their sound or no? Everyone else could hear them fine? Okay, then go ahead. It must be my computer.
Okay. We'll try to project a little bit more. As I just share my screen. Is everyone able to see this?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. I will move on then. So, as I said, we're going to go over some of the requirements that we look for when we're reviewing your application for the addition of those municipal spaces, whether it be a roadway cafe or a sidewalk cafe. This is a three-step process. You've already been told by Department of Transportation what their requirements are. You're then required to notify your community board within 30 days or 30 days in advance of applying for your municipal space alteration application to us. And so we'll go ahead and detail some of those requirements now. So what do you need? A copy of the permit or written authorization. So this is what you've already received from Department of Transportation. It could be an email correspondence telling you that you have conditional approval and you may operate your sidewalk cafe immediately, or maybe a copy of the permit itself. A copy of the permit application. The permit application in this case is the portal. It is the Department of Transportation portal, the application that you fill out with them. The diagram, this could be your site plan, in addition to the diagram of your establishment. We like to see those outdoor dining spaces as well as the premises itself, and how they interact with one another. Where is that roadway cafe in relation to the front door of your premises? Where is the sidewalk cafe in relation to the front door of your premises? We do require that the diagrams include the seating illustrated clearly on those diagrams so that we can see the layout and compare them to the rest of the application. Complete a proof of mailing or delivery to the of your community board notice to your respective community board. The community board notice in this case is different than that of the standard application that you used when you applied with the liquor authority originally. I will show you all an example of that towards the end of the presentation here. We're looking for workers' compensation insurance and proof of it. So we're looking for a copy of the workers' compensation certificate. We're also looking for liability insurance. There's a description section at the bottom third of the liability insurance, document. And it should read something like the following: injury sustained by persons on the contiguous municipal public space or non-contiguous municipal public space used by the licensee and, if applicable, persons and cyclists using or crossing a bike thoroughfare that connects the licensed premises to the non-contiguous municipal public space used by the licensee. This is really important. It makes sure that you are covered from a liability standpoint for anything that is outside of your control that may happen within the confines of your municipal space. We're looking for photographs of the newly added area. We're looking for those photographs to display the area open, ready to operate with all of the requirements that Department of Transportation is looking for. And whether that be a sidewalk cafe with the containment erected, we're looking for, those containment methods not to be permanent. We're looking for them to be able to be removed, as well as those that are for the roadway cafes. We're looking for the same requirements. We're looking to comply. We're basically matching our compliance with DOT in that regard. We are looking for a complete state liquor authority municipal application. I will show you an example of what that looks like momentarily. There are several pieces to that. So what are we looking for as far as the municipal application and the documents required? We are looking for the DOT items that the Department of Transportation has already detailed. These are already part of your DOT application and should be readily available to submit along with your state liquor authority municipal alteration application. So we're looking for a copy of the online application, a site plan form for your sidewalk cafe or roadway cafe. We're looking for the applicant affirmation form through DOT, tax affirmation form, property owner consent form, pest control certification, and insurance acknowledgement form. If any of those items are missing when the application is submitted to the state liquor authority, the application is rejected. We notify you of what is missing and ask that you resubmit your application via email at municipalspace@sla.ny.gov. Again, that email address is municipalspace@sla.ny.gov. That is how you apply to have the municipal space added to your license. As DOT already detailed, if you are rejected, suspended, revoked, or run into any sort of issues operating the sidewalk cafe, stop operating immediately. And you have to apply for an additional municipal alteration to remove that outdoor space, whether it be a sidewalk cafe or roadway cafe. There are several pieces to the municipal alteration, as I mentioned. And I just wanted to share those with you, just so you have an idea of what they look like and how they might differ from what you had submitted previously when applying for your license. This is the alteration application itself. And so if you've applied for an alteration in the past, you'll notice that this is different than that even. We're asking for a description of the space. You know, is it a sidewalk cafe? What are the dimensions of it? Where is it located? Some of the applications are on corner lots. And so the sidewalk cafe, for instance, is erected on both sides of that corner around the bend. We would want to, you know, have that detailed as well. We're asking for the dimensions here in the second page. And then this is your establishment questionnaire. This establishment questionnaire is the same document that you submitted when you were originally licensed with the State Liquor Authority. The only thing that should change is section 7, which is on the third page. For all intents and purposes, the first and second page should be representative, of your premises as it currently operates. And so how many bathrooms, you know, how many floors are you currently licensing? How many customer bars, service bars, et cetera? That should all be entered here as it was when you originally applied. And then this section 7 here, the back half of the third page, is where you would add the additional details for the municipal space. So number 7A, we would answer yes. We would list the max occupancy of that outdoor space. In 7C, right down in this section here, you know, the sidewalk cafe. Am I adding, you know, a roadway cafe? You may have to write that in here under the other and then describe it. 7E is going to ask you about your containment, fencing, wall, shrubbery, ropes, stanchions, etc. And then the answer to question 7F is, of course, yes. Do we need a permit for the outdoor space? That should be yes. This is your 30-day notice form to the community board. This is largely different than from the one that you originally used when you applied for the application for your liquor license. It is 1 page rather than 2. There are specific sections in here about the outdoor space. That is going to be numbers 12 and 12A, where it asks for a description of the municipal space to be added, and then what date you applied for the municipal permit. We are looking for these notice forms to be dated 30 days minimum prior to being submitted to the State Liquor Authority. And we are looking for confirmation of how it was delivered or sent. If hand delivered, you know, a stamp from your local community board would suffice. FedEx tracking, USPS tracking, or anything like that that shows that it was sent and or received. And then an applicant statement. Much like the affirmation that you complete with Department of Transportation, this is your contract with the New York State Liquor Authority, and stipulates that you are requiring with, or confirms rather, that you are requiring with the laws and regulations of the New York State Liquor Authority. That is our application. 5 or 6 pages. Oh, started me over at the beginning. That is our application. All completely filled out. We are looking for these applications to be complete, to be fully executed, and to be accompanied by all the documents that are required through New York City DOT when applying for the sidewalk cafes and roadway cafes. Thank you, Susan.
I'm sorry, I was talking on mute. We can open up questions. I don't know if there are any. I was the only one that wrote one in the chat. Do people have, but I guess you can raise your Zoom hand also if you have questions. Maybe there are none. Oh, but there are. Okay, so we'll call them in order. And if you could just be very brief and succinct. Daniel? Oh, I have to allow you to talk. I'm sorry. Okay, you should be able to talk now.
Hey, good afternoon. Can everyone hear me?
Yep,
My name is Lieutenant Daniel Knapp from the 7th Precinct, Special Operations Lieutenant. I just have a couple of questions regarding the SLA permission for alcohol consumption on the sidewalk and in the streets. If anyone could help me with those questions.
Absolutely.
All right, so for outdoor dining, like for example, cafes, they're allowed to be permitted from 8 a.m. to midnight. And alcohol sales, right? So a lot of these businesses do have a permit to serve alcohol indoors. Now, if they're serving alcohol outside, for example, the outdoor dining cafe or the street, do they need a separate permit or a separate language written somewhere else for that to happen?
So there's no extra permit or anything that we issue. If any of the stipulations have changed for the outdoor area, like for example, if they're limited to 10 p.m., that would go on the original license certificate that is hanging in their establishment. So that will be notated on their license certificate. If there is anything, like if it's like no outside music or anything like that, it would be stated there.
Will be stating no for any permission other than if it's not written, then it's you presumably stating that it's allowed.
Yeah, if it's not written, they can operate that location, the outside area, as they operate inside.
if I could add to that, in the 7th precinct, every single business has agreed to close, to stop operating outdoors at 10.
Okay. Yeah, been having issues where they're operating till midnight. So I just wanted to clarify the rules for this.
Lieutenant, it's Penny with the outdoor dining team at DOT. Quick question. They're operating or serving alcohol till 12?
Tables set up at midnight on the sidewalk, and on the street, like on the parking spaces where it's standing. Most businesses do still abide by the 10 p.m. rule where they clear up and all the businesses move inside, but there are still some businesses where they are on the sidewalk in the outdoor dining shed, still serving, still acting.
So according to the legislation, Local Law 121 that created the dining out program, they are allowed to operate outdoor dining, cooking food, not alcohol, until midnight. Now, if they agree to go to 10, that's great. But we cannot do any enforcement on that part. But if they're serving alcohol past whatever the SLA permit allows, then they're in violation of SLA rules.
Yeah.
Okay.
And as I mentioned, every business in 7th precinct has agreed to that.
But that's excellent.
Thank you so much.
And I just want to say another thing. They're allowed to, if they have a sidewalk cafe and they're allowed to be out there, they're allowed to keep their tables and chairs overnight in their setup, in their designated area, stacked up or, set up whichever way they want. But past midnight, they cannot serve food, customers, or anything there.
Appreciate it.
Any other questions? No more questions at all?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Then Daniel, then we'll go to Roberta.
You have a website indicated for permits, the PDFs. 2 links, additional approval for sidewalk dining. And then below that, it says review a list of food establishments that applied for by August 3rd, 2024. Now, the conditional approval link is the ones that the establishments got approved for outdoor dining, correct? You're muted.
I'm sorry. In sidewalk, there's 3 categories that are allowed to operate. There's the licensed, they got their license. Those that last year we issued conditional approvals. This year we're not issuing new. So last year we issued conditional approvals. So those that are still left with that conditional approval from last year that gave them permission to operate. it was actually a lot more than you see on the list. A lot of them got revoked or got a license. Then there is a very small, less than 300 locations citywide that applied by the August 3rd deadline that was part of the legislation. And they still didn't get a license for whatever reason, but they're still allowed to operate.
So you can operate a sidewalk cafe without authorization or approval?
No, only if you're on those, if you're licensed, great. But if you're a sidewalk and you're on any of those two lists, then you could continue to operate, correct?
Okay,
Because they
so
have an application by us and we're going through the process. For whatever reason, it's taking longer than expected with them. But they could continue to operate, correct? Only if they're on those lists.
those two lists,
Correct.
yeah,
If they're not listed in those two lists and don't have a license, they're not allowed to operate,
all right, 10-4. Thank you.
even if they applied.
Okay.
Submitting, I just want to make this clear, submitting an application does not allow you to operate. Signing the RC and paying the invoices does not allow you to operate. You need to get your license, except if you still have the conditional approval or you're on that list of the August 3rd.
Now, when I look up the link for the outdoor dining application portal to look up a restaurant, it doesn't come up. Is it because it's not updated or?
No, if you look through the link and you're looking up a name and it's not coming up because they didn't get the license yet. That portal only has licensed locations.
All right.
That's why we have the two separate lists for sidewalk. Again, this is only sidewalk. Roadways, or you're licensed or you're not licensed. There's no other option to be on the roadway this year.
Thank you.
Okay. Roberta? Oh, I have to allow you to. Okay, Roberta, you should be allowed to talk now.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for the time. Just a quick question here. What are the regulations with some of these cafes that have the bike lanes right across? Like you guys have allowed bike lanes to be right on the path. So you're trying to get out of the cafe and now there are bikes zooming, coming left, right with the electrical, motors, whatever it is that they're using. Is there regulations, signages? Can you also maybe talk about the lighting and illuminating some of these cafes? Like what's allowed and who's taking care of it?
So
I'm just gonna say, would it be helpful to know what business where this is, Roberta?
I'm
What
involved
is
in
your
another
business?
place. Well, I'm
Pardon?
involved in Motown Hotel for this.
Oh, yeah, okay, I have an
but
way. Yeah,
there the bike lane sits behind the roadway and it's totally fine. In another business that I'm involved, DOT has asked us to put the roadway right, behind the bike lane. But I just, as I'm
Right,
building the
yeah.
roadway, I just feel unsafe. I'm unsafe for people like coming out. Am I allowed to put a bump and a sign saying, hey, please slow down, please dismount your bike? What are the rules? Because I'm afraid with all these cafes around the
Yeah.
city and bikes zooming up and down, somebody's going to get hit.
okay, it's
Yeah, like
just
First Avenue and Second Avenue, yeah.
so if there's a
Yeah.
floating parking lane, you could apply to set up in the floating parking lane. So that means you're on the sidewalk, you get off the curb, you're in the bike lane, and then you're in the floating parking lane. So you can set up over there. When you go in or go out of that setup, the roadway setup in the floating parking lane, it's just like you're crossing a crosswalk. Look both sides or whichever way the bike's traveling and make sure you can pass safely. If a restaurant wants to put up a sign saying, slow down, people crossing or whatever, okay, it's not required, but sure, could help. And you cannot put like speed bumps or those type of stuff in the bike lane.
Okay.
So
And if there is
Roberta,
if there is a location, let me just put this out there. If there is a location that you feel that, a lot of speeding with bikers in the bike lane and we need to slow them down, please reach out to the, community board or to the borough commissioner's office. There is some devices that DOT could potentially, depending on the situation, put there to slow down the bikers.
They're driving on the sidewalk. They're literally running you over. So, you know, with these new electrical bikes, there's who do I even call, because they're flying up and down both directions. I am just concerned for the safety of people.
I'm
Look at
sure
the
the
drawings.
lieutenant.
Penny, if you look at the drawings of how DOT has allowed, people are walking out of their seats, turning around, and the bike lane is right there.
I'm sure the lieutenant could address enforcement of, you know, bikers on sidewalks or dangerous conditions.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
I just want to add really quick that the SLA does require signs to be posted when you're crossing over the bike lanes into the non-contiguous municipal space. It's just detailed on the application as to what we require. It's basically just says caution bicycle lane, and it has to be bold and large.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, Jules, you should be able to speak.
Hi, everyone. Thank you all I just want to say thank you for this Zoom meeting and for a very good presentation. Penny, I have a question on fees. If there's like a marathon or a parade and the client is requested to take down the roadway seating, that can cost a lot of money to take down the roadway seating. I take it DOT doesn't give us pay for any of that if we have to take something down.
No, DOT
No.
doesn't pay for that.
No, okay.
It should not cost that much because the rules do say it needs
Yeah.
to be easy removable.
Right, true.
So
But they have to
barriers.
store it. They have to store it, and that's
Yes.
very expensive.
True.
Yeah.
The storage could be a
Yeah,
little bit, right.
right, because I had some clients tell me that it cost a lot of money to take down the roadway and then to put it up.
I would love to know what they're setting up to see why it's, very
I don't
hard.
know. Yeah, I just had clients tell me that. And then the other thing, I have another question on fees. I know when we get the consent agreement, we also get it with the fees.
Correct.
Now, are those fees, I know it's a security deposit, which is a one-time fee, like you guys used to do at DCA. And then we have the consent fees. Now, is the consent fees good for 4 years, or do we have to pay every year for both?
It's an annual fee.
Excuse me?
Annual fee.
Annual fee. So
every year you'll get an invoice, correct?
Every year, okay, yeah. And it's basically the same as the first invoice from the consent fees?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
all right.
Okay, thank you, Megan. You should be able to speak.
Hi, sorry, this is Megan Joy from Lucky Jack, 11th Street Bar, Donnybrook. Just a question for the city and for the state. Well, before that, I would just like to say that to your previous question on how much it costs to remove and store these things, it's for 11th Street Bar, which is a small 17-foot roadway setup made out of an old container, right? So it's light enough, strong enough, but like basic. To pick it up, store it, and bring it back is $6,000. So, I mean, you have to store it somewhere, right? So you can't just put it. So that's how much that cost. For the question for the city and for the state, if someone were to apply today, what's the average wait times for the city to get your license approved? And what's the average wait time from the state to get your extension of your license approved? Thank you.
I'll go first before SLA answers. If you submit today an application, roadway or sidewalk, it could take a good 6 months until the license is issued.
And from an SLA perspective, I mean, the majority of the legwork, as Penny, mentioned, that we're, 6 months I understand that that's a long time. Once you're across those finish lines and you're on to the final step, which is SLA and having that municipal space added to your license through our application, you're 10 to 15 days. We are literally the final step. So once it's submitted, if everything is, the hypothetical being that the application is submitted and it is complete and we can act on it, 10 to 15 days, once it's emailed to our municipal space at sla.ny.gov.
The
You're
only
looking at,
exception would be like if there is opposition from the community board, it does take a little bit longer. Because we would have to schedule that application to go before the members, which does take a little bit of additional time, but we're aware that the season is here and we're trying to move those applications as quickly as possible.
okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, Semi, you should be able to speak.
Hi, I'm Semi from Skin Contact on Orchard Street. I know that there's a lot of information that's been put out right now, but I just wanted to ask, I know that Open Streets is planning on opening the 15th of May. So until then, we don't have an outdoor license, and I guess I wasn't told that we needed one. So until Open Streets is due to open, is there nothing I can do about opening outside?
Correct. To set up anything on the sidewalk or roadway, you need a license from us.
Yeah.
If you're just participating in open streets, and I wrote that in the chat, you can set up tables and chairs in the roadway during open street hours only,
Right.
but it has to be available for the public. That means if I walk down the street and decide to sit down at a table without buying any food from you, you cannot tell me to leave. It cannot be just for your customers. It's open streets. It's open for the public.
Okay, so then once I get a license, would that be specifically for customers?
Okay, so I'm talking streets, yes. So then you continue having your regular roadway setup, and that's
Okay.
only yours. It has nothing to do with with the open streets.
Okay, but you're still saying that regardless, whatever I set up outside is still open for the public. However, within the sidewalk, that is for my customers only.
No, so sidewalk has nothing to do with open streets. Sidewalk, you're gonna need a license.
Okay.
Open
Regardless.
streets, correct. Open streets is for the street. Basically, we close it down for vehicle traffic,
Gotcha.
and it's open for the public, right? To drive a bike around or whatever, the kids to play, there's events and everything else. And there's tables and chairs all over the place. For people to sit down, grab a sandwich, just whatever they want to do, a drink or whatever. So if you're putting out tables and chairs on the roadway during open street hours, it's for the public.
Heard. And the
Not only for your
sidewalk is
customers.
different.
Sidewalk, you have to get out, you have to take out a dining license. You can, during open streets, you cannot put sidewalk dining.
I think
so
she's asking if she has a sidewalk cafe, that is for her customers only.
Only,
correct?
correct. Doesn't matter open streets or not open streets, correct.
Correct.
Okay.
And for open streets, if I could just, because I know there's a lot of questions about this. The businesses can apply for a franchise permit, which will allow them to have tables and chairs in open streets just for their customers. Is that correct?
I don't
That-
have to ask the open streets unit
That's-
about that.
That's correct. We're moving towards a concession agreement model that isn't in effect yet, but once we're able to finalize the types of agreements, we're going to be working with the individual partners to determine what works best for them.
And will that happen by the time the open streets open?
Not immediately. So currently this open street season is going to operate as it has in the past, where businesses can put out tables and chairs, and allow for the public to sit as well as their patrons.
Okay. And then in the future, there will be that concession agreement.
And if there is the concession agreement, once it goes into place, but again, it's only during open street hours. That doesn't mean because you have that concession agreement, it's today's Wednesday and there's no open street program on that block, you cannot set up.
Oh, the cars are going back and forth, so it's
Yeah,
really
but they'll
difficult.
try to use the curb. What I'm trying to say is you can't even use the curb in the parking lot.
Okay, Jules, you had another question?
Just, yeah, on open streets. So our clients did the open street applications. They did it through like a coalition. One was on St. Mark's Place. The other, I think, was on Bond Street. I sent it into the SLA. They got approved. So my question is for open streets, can one business apply to DOT, or does it have to be like more than one business?
For the open streets program?
Yeah, does it matter if it's one business or more than one business? Like, can they did it through the coalition on the streets, like St. Mark's Place. It was a St. Mark's Place coalition that applied to DOT for the open streets.
So I think what you're saying is that each business have to apply to serve liquor.
Right, or can they do, I mean, obviously they did do it through the neighborhood coalition, but but can one business just do it on their own? Is there a rule for that with DOT?
So if you're talking about applying for strictly the open streets program, a singular business can apply to operate an open street. There are instances like St. Mark's, like you mentioned, where multiple businesses are working together to operate and maintain it. But that's separate from the SLA process.
Correct. Okay. All right.
Okay, Michael, I see you couldn't raise your hand, but you should be able to speak now.
Hi, it's Max from the Alliance. Thank you all for participating. Just two quick questions. One for the SLA and one for DOT. So from the SLA, Maureen, could you just clarify something you said earlier about the license certificate? So is it the case that with every single approved municipal alteration application, you issue a new license certificate that specifies outdoor dining, or is it more complicated than that?
No, we just issue a new license certificate. Everyone gets a new one with the new outdoor area listed on the certificate. And if there's any additional, outdoor stipulations or requirements.
Okay, that's I definitely I understood your part about additional steps. Like for example, in this community board, if folks agreed to 10 p.m. closing outdoors, you'd list that. But if there were no additional steps, you would still though issue a new license certificate that says outdoor area.
Yes,
okay.
Yes, we are doing that.
Okay, thank you. And then for DOT, Penny, I get this question a lot actually. For roadway, does DOT provide any assistance in terms of removing vehicles that are parked in a roadway setup? Is there any recourse? Is there anywhere anybody could go if they've begun paying the city for their roadway cafe, paying rent for it, and there's a car that's parked there, and you just got to wait for someone to leave and then run out there. Basically, how do you secure your spot?
Well, that's go ahead,
Lauren.
Penny.
No, Lauren, go
I
ahead.
was just going to say part of that is why we give like a 7-day cushion ahead of April 1st for folks to start to set up, because we anticipate that being a bit of a concern. But I guess if you were to set up after April 1st, we wouldn't be able to assist there. If it becomes a very large problem, I guess the restaurant could contact us and we could see through the borough office if they're able to give a no parking sign, so that just temporarily, so that the restaurant could set up, but it's not like a widely asked for item from us.
Okay.
So interesting that you're getting a lot of intel on this, because we haven't heard much.
Yeah. I've heard maybe a dozen or so instances, so it's enough that I wanted to ask.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Susan, you're on mute.
Yeah. Last chance for questions if anyone else has any questions.
Nope, good.
Looks like we don't. Thank you so much. I thought it was incredibly informative. I learned more today too. So thanks an awful lot. I really appreciate it. And we will, we have this recording. We will post this video and send a copy to both DOT and SLA.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Good
you,
to see
everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.